I am very pleased that we have completed another year. There have been many challenges, but at the same time we were able to record a number of successes. We have many success stories. We were able to complete a number of physical projects. We were able to progress on some of the projects that have been lingering for a while, like the MPF and also the Youth Agricultural Project. We are also able to do a lot of work on the new area that was reassigned to our ministry, the Department of Cooperatives. We were able to liaise with, mobilize and reorganize a number of the cooperatives, and I'm very happy about that. We were also able to work along with the fishers, and we were able to deliver on our promise of creating and registering a new company for the Fish Marketing Corporation. And generally, we see that our extension officers, the officers in the field, worked even harder to ensure that the sector recovered from the impacts of the trough which affected us in 2013. We saw an extended drought again, and it is being reported in many areas that 2015 will actually see the longest drought period in a long time, longest dry season. And therefore, the farmers, the fishers, the cooperatives had many challenges. But I am very pleased that we stood up and we worked along with the sector to ensure that our sector made progress. I want to say, though, that in 2016, the challenges continue to stare us in the face. We continue to battle with the issues surrounding marketing, and farmers continue to battle with producing and delivering products to market on time and getting payments on time. And as a ministry, we have to work very hard to ensure that we did this. I'm very pleased that we started the process of forming a new strategic plan, and the fact that we went all around St. Lucia to speak to farmers and to consumers and parents and many other people in the agricultural sector, in the fisheries sector, in cooperatives. And we are getting many ideas and certainly many concerns. And one of the major concerns continue to be marketing, continue to be better service at the level of the farms and at the level of the services to the individual farmers.
A level of education.
The Agri-Enterprise Development Unit in the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Production, Fisheries, Cooperatives and Rural Development continued its efforts to develop various products which could have impact on the farming community and on the economy as a whole. The Agri-Enterprise Development Unit in 2015 teamed up with a number of local and international agencies to explore the value and versatility of the cassava crop. As part of the development, the unit collaborated with the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, and the Bakers Association of St. Lucia in producing bread using a mix of cassava and wheat flour. A sampling of the bread was later done to engage the public and to get a feel of the consumer's impression. Ahead of the World Food Day celebrations of 2015, committee members participated in the cooking of various dishes using cassava for sampling by staff of the Agriculture Ministry and its allied agencies. The trials continued into World Food Day as the ministry collaborated with various schools which showed their own creativity in adding value to the cassava crop. Many other activities continued throughout the year to develop the product and to encourage its use by housewives and the St. Lucian public. The Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, in partnership with the Geneva-based International Trade Center and the European Union, implemented a €3.5 million project to develop the coconut industry in the Caribbean.
To try to define what are the priorities of the sector and to try to basically make this into a process that leads to concrete market opportunities. Basically, that everything that we are doing and we are working together with the farmers and institutions will be translated into an increased income for the farmers at the end. So basically, we will work together with CARI, we will rely on their strength, and we will try to bring our expertise and our experience working with the development of some products and some markets.
The project was financed by the European Union under the 10th European Development Fund and involved 9 CARIFORUM countries, including St. Lucia.
Coconut water is one of the principal options facing coconut producers, because you can harvest more coconuts from the coconut tree if you harvest green coconuts. Now, it doesn't mean that we leave out the rest. Now, the industry has been familiar with and has, for some time ago, has talked about copper.
The project aimed to satisfy the demand for coconuts and coconut byproducts, which have skyrocketed on both the regional and world market due to an array of setbacks experienced by industries in the 1980s. CARI welcomed the support to revitalize the coconut industry in the Caribbean because of its significant potential to contribute to economic development and poverty reduction in the benefiting countries. By the same token, St. Lucia's agricultural sector continued efforts to enhance its coconut industry by introducing disease-free plantlets for the sector. During the month of August 2015, 2 batches containing approximately 7,000 coconut plants were imported into St. Lucia from Mexico to help strengthen St. Lucia's dry and water-nut industry. The variety of coconuts received is the Malayan dwarf, a variety developed in Mexico to resist the pathogens which cause lethal yellowing in coconuts. The plants arrived here in a disease-free condition and were kept at the Union Agricultural Station, where they were hardened and prepared for the open field. The manner in which the plants will be distributed had not yet been decided. However, guidance on the method of planting and on plant management will be provided in due course. The Canadian Hunger Foundation, CHF, continued its operations in 2015 by assisting the agricultural sector in implementing St. Lucia's PROPEL initiatives. PROPEL is the acronym for Promotion of Regional Opportunities for Produce through Enterprises and Linkages. The project seeks to facilitate market-led initiatives funded by the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA, and the Canadian Hunger Foundation. A regional advisory committee meeting of the CHF convened in St. Lucia during the first quarter of the year to develop a working plan for the organization for the year ahead. The meeting brought together representatives from a wide cross-section of disciplines that could influence decisions on the objectives of the organization. One of the main initiatives in which the PROPEL project was involved in St. Lucia was the growing of Irish potatoes. The initiative was to determine how successful the crop could be grown and marketed in St. Lucia. Another aspect of the trial was to test the acceptance of the crop by the consuming public. PROPEL has already begun implementing activities in countries across the Caribbean and has also established offices in Barbados, Jamaica, and Guyana.
We commit to play that role in Martinique.
Amidst the planning, a delegation of over 20 entrepreneurs from the Chamber of Commerce in Martinique met with officials of the local agricultural sector to establish a mutual exchange and cooperation for the benefit of both countries. A meeting between the two parties, held during the month of March, discussed the possibilities of conducting trade across borders. The French were of the view that the closeness geographically to each other, as well as the commonality in the French Creole language, would increase chances of a successful cooperation. This was the first such visit by the French since Martinique joined the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. During the visit, the Martinicans expressed interest in a number of products that are available in St. Lucia, while showcasing a wide range of products developed by the French territory to the St. Lucian public. The tour signaled the beginning of another public-private partnership, this time across borders. It was felt that St. Lucia could now have easy access to the European market, with Martinique being a colony of France.
The aim of this project, the conduct of value chain analysis for specified crop and livestock commodities.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Food Production, Fisheries, Cooperatives and Rural Development, in collaboration with the Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARI, in 2015 launched the Conduct of Value Chain Analysis of Specific Crop and Livestock Commodities in St. Lucia. The project was funded through the European Union's Agricultural Transformation Program of the Banana Accompanying Measures. The project sought to select key agricultural commodities that would help strengthen the island's import substitution program while giving support to the export capabilities of the island in an effort to transform the local agricultural sector. The Value Chain Analysis Program is the first of 4 components being funded by the European Union under the Agricultural Transformation Program. The value chain component was set for execution by CARDI over an 8-month period. It involved facilitating the analysis of value chains for specific commodities, capacity building for groups and individuals involved in the program, and the remodeling of 4 agro-processing facilities on the island. A list of commodities was identified to be focused on as a matter of priority. Meanwhile, an agricultural value chain symposium put on by the Trade Export Promotion Agency TIPA and the Agricultural Ministry was held during the month of February 2015 at the Palm Haven Conference Room in Rodney Bay. The theme for the event was developing a shared vision towards increasing agricultural exports. The joint initiative sought to advance common ideas and sustain growth in agricultural exports by directly addressing the challenges that impede such exports. The main objectives were to propose a comprehensive and strategic vision that would assist the Ministry of Agriculture and TIPA in promoting, marketing and responding to export opportunities for the agricultural sector. The results of the activity would have benefited all priority markets as identified by TIPA.
The government of the Kingdom of Morocco continued its partnership with St. Lucia in providing support to the local farming community. A new shipment of fertilizers arrived on the island during the month of November 2015 for distribution to the farms. A press briefing on the cooperation between St. Lucia and Morocco was held ahead of the distribution, outlining the objective of the cooperation.
Our countries established diplomatic relations back in 1988. These relations were reinforced in 2010 and gained new momentum in February 2013 when a multi-sector delegation led by the PS of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Morocco visited St. Lucia and signed with Dr. Kenny Anthony a cooperation program. Well, exactly 1 year later, the Embassy of the Kingdom of Morocco opened, and this translates Morocco's willingness to strengthen its relations with St. Lucia and the whole Caribbean region. One of the major sectors of cooperation between our countries is agriculture. It is noteworthy to remind that cooperation in this sector is not limited to providing fertilizers, but it extends to exchange of experience and expertise, drawing and putting up a fertility map for St. Lucia and other things.
Distribution of the fertilizers commenced in all agricultural regions around the island during the week, which began on the 30th of November. The fertilizers were distributed to banana and non-banana producers, as well as schools with kitchen gardens to help increase their production. Distribution of the fertilizers commenced in Soufriere and Babonneau and continued throughout the week in Otsa, the Maboya Valley, Mikoud, and in Vieux-Fort. Many farmers were happy with the donation, citing it would help reduce on their cost of production while increasing the quality and quantity of crops being produced.
You can't get nothing good. The fertilizer is good, the rate is good, the help that the government is giving with agriculture men right now, it's still okay, so I'm happy about it.
The latest donation of fertilizers was the third and largest quantity made available to the farmers under the Moroccan Assistance Project. A previous amount was donated under the project in 2014.
Several new batches of agribusinessmen and women from various regions around St. Lucia became certified agri-entrepreneurs after completing a 5-week training program jointly organized by the Extension and Advisory Services Division and the Agribusiness Development Unit of the Department of Agriculture. A first batch of 23 farmers from regions 1 and 2 met the certification standards and became registered under the certification program. On March 5th, another group of farmers, this time from Region 5, graduated under the program. The training and certification activities continued throughout the island in all of the 8 agricultural regions, with a total of over 400 agri-entrepreneurs being certified. The certification exercise is part of an ongoing program of the agricultural sector designed to equip farmers with the entrepreneurial skills needed to enter the world of business. The program covers subject areas in agribusiness development, pest and disease management, record keeping, and post-harvest management, among others. The training seeks to get all farmers certified so that they would be better able to manage their farms and supply a better quality product to the market. The newly certified agribusiness men and women were applauded for taking on the challenge of capacity building. They were reminded of the important role that they play in feeding the nation and in bringing food security to the local economy. The newly certified agri-entrepreneurs were also encouraged to use the program as a springboard to propel the business forward and the agricultural sector in the right direction. Students, farmers, residents and officers of the Pridi-Alasani unit of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Production, Fisheries, Cooperatives and Rural Development took to the streets of Miku during the month of February in a sensitization march to send a strong message to perpetrators involved in the illegal practice of stealing from our farmers and those receiving the stolen agricultural produce. The march was held to foster community participation in the fight against Pridi-Alasani. Those who participated marched through the village waving placards and chanting, "Si pani situyez, pani vole." The march began on the grounds of the Roman Catholic Church in Miku and culminated on the Miku playing field, where a zero-tolerance message was sent to those who continue to steal from farmers and those who encourage the practice by receiving the stolen produce. Meanwhile, the Pridi-Alasani unit continued their successes in 2015 at recovering stolen agricultural goods and in bringing perpetrators of Pridi-Alasani to justice. Up until October 2015, the Pridi-Alasani unit recorded approximately 488 reported cases of Pridi-Alasani. Stemming from these reports, 31 individuals were arrested, 50 matters, including some pending from the previous year, were settled out of court, 14 cases were withdrawn, and 112 warnings were issued. Approximately 172 matters remained under investigation, while 97 cases were set aside for future reference. Up until October, 14 individuals were sentenced to prison for the offense of Pridi-Alasani, while many cases were withdrawn due to the lack of tangible evidence. There were instances where perpetrators were ordered to compensate farmers for their losses. The Pridi-Alasani officers stepped up their patrol in Mark, Dennery, Cul-de-Sac and Roseau communities during the month of July due to an upsurge in animal theft in those areas. Night patrols were conducted to intercept any illegal movement of livestock. The education aspect of the project continued throughout the year, with lectures being conducted at various schools, among farmer groups, and with inmates at the Bodily Correctional Facility. Radio and television programs continued as a means of educating the public. Pridi-Alasani remains one of the biggest problems faced by agricultural producers in 2015. The offense attracts a maximum fine of $10,000 or a jail term not exceeding 2 years in prison or both fine and imprisonment. The unit warns that perpetrators involved in the illegal practice of Pridi-Alasani, as well as those who encourage the practice by receiving the stolen goods, will face the long arm of the law.
The 10-year agriculture policy and strategic plan of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Production, Fisheries, Cooperatives and Rural Development, which began in 2005, ended in 2015. As a result, policymakers of the agricultural sector conducted a review to determine whether or not the objectives of the sector were met.
We have come to the end of our previous planning cycle. So all of the plans that we made, the policies that were established and had to have been implemented, the time frame for that is now coming to an end. So the ministry must now initiate planning for the next 10 to 15 years. And what we have opted to do is to adopt the bottoms-up approach, which is in accordance with recommendations that have been made to the ministry over the years, and also in accordance with practices that are utilized all over the world in order to ensure that you adequately get and represent the views, the concerns, the ideas, the recommendations, not only of your direct stakeholders, your fishers and farmers, the ones who are immediately and directly involved in the activities that we are part of, but also of the persons and other entities that may be either directly or indirectly affected or directly or indirectly involved.
As a result, a series of meetings were conducted by officials of the ministry in communities around the St. Lucia to engage farmers, fishers, consumers, and members of the public in discussions that would assist in developing a new medium to long-term national policy and the strategic plan for the advancement of St. Lucia's agricultural sector. A new bottom-up approach was adopted by the sector in designing the new policy. The consultations began in the Marbella Valley on October 14 and proceeded to the Roseau Valley, the town of Soufrière, the villages of ancillary canneries, and the Micoud community. It continued in Labri, Babonneau, Vieux-Fort, Bexon, Castries, Dennery, and Choiseul, and culminated in the town of Grosillet. Officials of the agriculture sector were on hand to receive suggestions and to respond to questions and comments. Officials were quite pleased with the level of discussion in most communities, citing that suggestions would assist greatly in designing the new policy. The Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, ICA, in 2015 presented to stakeholders of the agricultural sector and other partnering agencies its achievements for the period 2014 and 2015. The presentation was made during an accountability seminar which took place in the conference room of the Orchid Garden Center in Union. During the seminar, ICA's representatives outlined the mission, vision, and mandates of the organization and the many local projects and programs embarked on by the organization over the last year. The representatives reported on strides that were made in collaboration with the St. Lucia Network of Rural Women Producers, as well as the continued assistance to the HOOPS project. Much emphasis, they said, were placed on assisting in the development of value chains in key local commodities, namely pineapples and small ruminants. The continuous rise in the food import bill in OECS countries, as well as effects of climate change on small vulnerable territories like St. Lucia, were among the concerns that the organization believes must be addressed. The challenge of low productivity being experienced on island, ICA believes had a significant impact on food security as well as competitiveness of the agricultural sector. The new thrust of the organization will include 4 main objectives, which are productivity and competitiveness, rural inclusion, adaptation to climate change, integrating resource management, and sustainability and food and nutrition security. The seminar was attended by staff from ICA, officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, representatives from CARDI, the Diplomatic Corps, farmers, and representatives from various farmer organizations. ICA has been working with the agricultural sector for decades with the aim of strengthening the work program of the Ministry of Agriculture by empowering vulnerable groups to help improve on the livelihoods of agricultural producers and their families. A large group of agri-entrepreneurs throughout Canada paid a courtesy visit to the farm of Mr. Compton Francois, located in Rive-Doré, Choiseul, during the month of March 2015. The tour was organized by the St. Lucia Tourist Board in collaboration with the St. Lucia Tourism Development Program and the Ministry of Agriculture. The tour formed part of the biannual undertaking of Agro-Canada to learn how agriculture is being practiced in other parts of the world. Agrico-Canada is a private fertilizer supply company based in Toronto, Canada. The group, which visited St. Lucia, is made up of retailers of fertilizer supplied by Agrico and operates throughout Canada. They were quite pleased to learn of the strides being made in St. Lucia's agriculture. The visitors were willing to share their own farming experience with St. Lucia, which they say would assist in developing the local sector. Local organizers were optimistic that such visits would strengthen the linkage between the agriculture and tourism sectors and increase St. Lucia's competitiveness on the international market. Other partners, such as ICA and the Taiwanese Technical Mission, have provided assistance in developing existing model farms into agro-tourism enterprises.
Meanwhile, Agriculture Minister Honorable Moses Baptiste undertook a series of tours during the first quarter of 2015 to some of the irrigation facilities on the island. The activity sought to provide first-hand knowledge of the irrigation infrastructure that was available on the island and how they could contribute to the provision of food in St. Lucia. The impacts of climate change on the farming community, as was manifested in an extended dry period in 2015, brought into question the issue of food insecurity.
So we went to Cul-de-sac, we looked at the Mabuya Valley, we also looked at the Roseau irrigation project, and to look at the situation to find out why is it, we have those infrastructure, the infrastructure, we have pipes, we have pumps in certain areas, we have reservoirs, and why over the years we seem not to have made maximum use of the infrastructure for agriculture, especially in a situation where we have problems. Last year, 2014, we saw the driest period on record.
The infrastructure at Roseau, Cul-de-sac, the Mabuya Valley, Canals and Dulce in Choiseul were among those visited. Collaboration among various groups, which included the Ministry of Agriculture, the farming community and private sector, was one of the areas cited to remedy the problem that exists.
The development of the livestock industry was one of the areas identified by the government to be a viable alternative to drive the St. Lucian economy. As a result, a diagnostic study was conducted on the livestock industry, which gave rise to a livestock industry development plan. The plan identified the many limitations to the development of the industry as being structural, economic, and technological in nature. These include the high cost of production, competition with cheaper imported livestock products, the absence of a general quality standard, the absence of appropriate slaughtering, processing and marketing facilities, and the unavailability of good quality stock locally, among others. In light of these, a new project dubbed Poverty Reduction in St. Lucia through Livestock Development was launched here during the month of July in an effort to manifest the true potential of the livestock industry. The project was funded by the India-Brazil-South Africa Trust Fund with the Food and Agriculture Organization as the implementing partner. A major thrust of the project was to develop the Bossiju Agricultural Station into a national center of excellence. The center would ensure good animal husbandry practices, improved infrastructure and bloodlines, and an enhanced breeding program of livestock. The project sought also to establish 2 communal feedlots, one at Bossiju in Vieux and the other in the Mabuya Valley. The overall objective of the project was to enhance food and nutrition security in St. Lucia. It sought also to provide social protection and poverty reduction with a focus on vulnerable groups, enhance institutional capacity, policy formulation, and the investment and strengthening of small ruminant farmer organizations on the island. The establishment of the meat processing facility in Bossiju remained a major part of the overall development. Meanwhile, the Australian High Commission to St. Lucia paid a courtesy visit to the St. Lucia Small Ruminant Producers Cooperative Society during the month of February. The purpose of the visit was to assess the progress of development which was ongoing within the organization. The Government of Australia, through a direct aid program, assisted St. Lucia's Small Ruminant Producers Cooperative Society by providing a grant of US $37,000 to the organization for the purchase of purebred animals. An additional amount of US $23,000 was later provided to the cooperative for the construction of 2 animal pens at a designated site in Bossiju. 12 purebred animals, both sheep and goats, were brought into St. Lucia from the US under the project, which sought to establish a breeding program with the local stock. At the time of the visit, the program had already borne fruit, with 7 offsprings already standing and approximately 22 pregnant females on various farms. It was the hope of the members that many more farmers would join the cooperative so that the industry would flourish with improved bloodlines of animals, better meat stock, and that the industry would contribute to the overall development of St. Lucia's livestock development program.
They are buying the local chicken because they think that is the best chicken that they are getting.
A consultation among producers, purchasers, private sector partners, and government officials involved in the broiler industry was held during the month of June to iron out a working strategy for the advancement of the broiler industry in St. Lucia. Efforts by the government to allow local poultry producers a bigger share of the market had been met with stiff objection by some players within the value chain. The government had recently allowed producers to increase their share of the market from 30% to 40%, allowing for approximately 40,000 baby chicks to be produced on a weekly basis by the 2 hatcheries operating in the island. The hatchers were optimistic that they were ready and capable to undertake the increase, and that the quality of birds coming from the 2 hatcheries would be of a similar high standard as those being imported. They also believed that it would reduce St. Lucia's chances of importing any disease that could be brought in by baby chicks imported from an infected country. St. Lucia until then had enjoyed a disease-free status from infections associated with poultry. The producers, for their part, welcomed the increase, noting that it would help reduce the high rate of unemployment facing the country. They noted also that the local product is fresh, wholesome, and free from growth hormones and additives, a factor to be considered with the high rate of non-communicable diseases being realized in St. Lucia. They also tabled the issue of food security. The St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture welcomed the consultation, noting that enough was not known about the challenges being faced by all players within the sector for them to make any decisive position on issues relating to increases in the market. The meeting was well represented by players from the poultry subsector, which include producers, processors, feed suppliers, importers, and the Chamber of Commerce.
First one, treat the animal, second one.
Livestock farmers, agricultural officers, and representatives from related organizations participated in a 3-day workshop entitled Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards. The meeting was held at the Orchid Garden Conference Center on March 16th to the 18th. The purpose of the workshop was to bring participants together to give them an understanding of the new approaches being used by the international community to monitor and respond to natural or other disasters within the agricultural sector. The workshop sought to design a local approach using the new guidelines and standards. The legs approach had already been successfully used in disaster-prone countries outside of the Caribbean and was recently introduced to St. Vincent and later St. Lucia. The workshop was funded by the Food and Agriculture Organization and facilitated by 2 officers of the Veterinary and Livestock Services Division.
The Department of Fisheries in 2015 continued its efforts at managing the marine resources in and around St. Lucia for the survival and sustainability of these resources. As such, the department during the year embarked on a number of initiatives that would assist users to make their contribution by properly utilizing the resources. During the month of January, the department collaborated with a number of agencies, which include the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, the TVET Council in the Ministry of Education, and the St. Lucia National Trust, to launch the development of standards to train persons to become certified CMOS producers. The project was part of a broader initiative funded by the British government to support community-based livelihoods and to help manage the systems on which they depend for their survival. A group of representatives from all partnering agencies participated in the signing of the approved standards, which were then handed to the St. Lucia National Trust to be used as a training tool. These were the first such standards to be developed locally. In the same vein, the Department of Fisheries teamed up with the Taiwan Technical Mission to develop a new aquaculture technical extension manual for the aquaculture industry. The manual was presented to aquaculture farmers and prospective farmers of the industry at a one-day training workshop held at the Orchid Garden Center in Union. The manual sought to equip aquaculture producers with the skills and knowledge needed to achieve maximum production and economic benefit from the enterprise. The collaboration between the Taiwanese and the Fisheries Department has resulted in many new persons entering the field of aquaculture, as well as an increase in the acreage of aquaculture ponds on the island. The mission hoped that the aquaculture industry would expand locally for the benefit of all St. Lucians. Aquaculture remains an untapped resource in St. Lucia, which offers livelihood opportunities to farmers, scope for diversification, income substitution, reduction in the local food import bill, food security, and foreign exchange earnings for St. Lucia. At the start of 2015, fishers at Poile and Savants Bay saw promises transformed into action when the sword turning and check handing over ceremony to commence construction of 2 jetties was held.
The government of St. Lucia, $824,922.56. This will be handed to the accountants, which will go to the treasury of St. Lucia. In fact, our little practice in the ministry is so that we could publicly hand it over to the permanent secretary, who has a thank you letter. I wish for us to do this right away in the full glare of the public.
Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste noted that the construction of the jetties was in keeping with a promise made by his government to improve the living conditions of people in rural communities. The 2 coastal areas are known to provide livelihood opportunities for residents of surrounding communities in the areas of CMOS cultivation and fish landing. Users of the resource were quite pleased with the development. They noted that the jetties would assist them in securing their vessels while attracting more economic activities to the communities in areas of fishing and in tourism. Both facilities were completed and were being used by the second quarter of the year. Fishers of Savants Bay are enjoying the use of a jetty for the first time, while in Poile,
the fishers benefited from the erection of a sound structure. Fishers and users of the two jetties are still awaiting the official opening of the facilities. Meanwhile, a 3-man delegation from Japan, headed by Ambassador and Special Envoy for the United Nations Affairs, His Excellency Ken Shimanouchi, paid a courtesy visit to St. Lucia's Fisheries Minister, Honorable Moses Jean-Baptiste, on a brief stopover to St. Lucia during the month of April. The purpose of the visit was to review the general cooperation agreement between the two governments in the areas of fisheries development and the fishing infrastructure.
For me, it was a very informative, very cordial discussion. We thanked His Excellency for the tremendous support which has been given to us by the Japanese government over the years, even in times when the Japanese had their own difficulties with the tsunami, with earthquakes. The Japanese people still stood by the side of St. Lucia, St. Lucian fishers, and people in our communities. We thank the ambassador for the assistance by the Japanese, and we also look forward. We told the ambassador that we look forward to greater collaboration in the future, and the ambassador assured us that St. Lucia, Japan remains a very true friend of St. Lucia.
The signing of the new agreement between the two governments to upgrade 5 fishing facilities on the island was foremost during the discussions. These upgrades include the installation of storage and ice-making devices and other general infrastructural improvements to facilities which were initially donated by the government of Japan. Concerns regarding the lack of proper fishing infrastructure in Mikud and Labri were expressed, while the issue of sand being deposited in the facility in Choiseul was brought to the fore. The high cost of electricity at the various fishing ports was also lamented, citing the possibility of energy conservation through renewable methods, including solar energy. The ambassador, for his part, expressed his government's commitment to continue assisting St. Lucia in its developmental thrust. The department also continued to empower fishers through means of training in navigation, first aid and fish handling and preparation. During the first quarter of the year, fishers from Castries, Grosile and Bonans Bay participated in a training workshop intended to equip fishers and vendors with the skills needed in the handling and preparation of fish.
As a part of the Department of Fisheries initiative to revitalize fisher training programs, we have partners with the TVET unit to bring to fishers a training course in fish handling and processing, with the main effort of trying to improve fish sanitation standards and the ability of fishers who already are engaged in vending to offer new products, new options to customers.
I learned a lot of how to take care of the fish, how to prepare it, how to even talk to somebody who comes and buy it, and how to treat them and make them know what are we doing that will be in a better manner for them. Yeah, I like that.
Participants were instructed in the areas of hygiene, preservation of fish, and fish preparation using various choice cuts. Residents of Vieux-Fort and its environs participated in an Eastern Caribbean Marine Area Network communication for conservation campaign to help raise awareness of marine conservation issues in the Point Sap area and, by extension, the town of Vieux-Fort. The area covered under the project stretches from the Mulashik Peninsula, covering the entire stretch of beach at Point Sap. The area used was recognized because of its significance to biodiversity as well as its support to livelihoods in the areas of fishing, charcoal production, sea moss cultivation, and ecotourism.
The This Is Who We Are campaign was officially launched at Sandy Beach in Vieux-Fort on the same day as Earth Day, April 22nd. The campaign was launched, and it is something that's happening similar in 6 Caribbean islands within the region, and they're all running this 6 months campaign themed This Is Who We Are. The This Is Who We Are campaign really speaks about the value and the appreciation for marine protected areas.
The area is being highly utilized by sea bathers and fishers and includes mangroves, which suffer as a result of degradation, pollution, and illegal fishing. The project embarked on a public sensitization campaign to enhance and foster new relationships and partnerships with schools, community groups, and organizations to help spread the message of conservation within the project's area. Still in the area of fisheries development, fishers from the 12 fish landing sites on island converged at the Fisheries Complex in Vieux-Fort during the month of October 2015 to be awarded for their participation in months of training in first aid and CPR. The training was in keeping with the Global Code of Conduct to be adhered to by countries as part of their responsible fishing operations.
The code describes how fisheries should be managed responsibly and how fishing operations themselves should be conducted. And although it was adopted 20 years ago, it is still relevant today and used widely to guide fisheries development globally.
The training was funded by the government of Taiwan to the tune of just over $20,000 as part of their contribution to the development of fisheries in St. Lucia. A total of 71 fishers participated in the training and became certified first aid and CPR professionals. As they have done every year, fishers from throughout the island on 29 June participated in activities to observe the Feast of St. Peter, commonly known as Fisherman's Feast. Fishers from the Castries Basin joined their counterparts for the usual church service and the activities that follow.
So I want to wish you a very happy Fisherman's Feast, and I trust that you will enjoy yourselves. If you take tomorrow off, but make sure on Wednesday you're healthy enough to get back on your vessels and go and catch more fish for our people. Thank you.
The fishers had much to be thankful for and celebrated in grand style.
The revised school feeding program, of which the Agriculture Ministry is a part, took center stage in 2015 as a number of activities were undertaken to ensure that the program's objectives were met. A series of tours conducted by officials of the Agriculture and Education Ministries during the month of February sought to assess the progress of works that were being undertaken in the various schools under the revised school feeding program. Observations were made at the Vieux-Fort Primary School to assess the readiness of the school garden as well as the readiness of the school kitchen for the project. A greenhouse donated by Lucia was erected on the grounds of the school to add value to the program. The tour continued to the Grosley Primary School, where improvements to the school garden and kitchen were observed. During the month of March 2015, a 1,000-gallon water tank was donated to the Grosley Primary School by members of the St. Lucia JICA Alumni Association. The donation was made to assist in irrigating the school garden and to help contribute towards the development of the feeding program of the Grosley Primary School. In September of 2015, the school feeding program was officially launched at the Vieux-Fort Primary School. It was the first time that students of that particular school would be fed with a lunch meal under the National School Feeding Program. The Bellevue Combined School in Vieux-Fort North also benefited under the program. Facilities to advance school feeding were erected at Bellevue as part of a second phase to the project. A complete structure for dining and a kitchen garden were among the developments which took place at Bellevue. While these were ongoing, improvement works continued at the various schools that are attached to the project, as well as capacity building among individuals who are assisting in the feeding program.
The government of Taiwan, through its embassy in St. Lucia, have been assisting in the fight against the dreaded black sigatoka leaf spot disease locally. On Thursday, 16th January 2015, Taiwan's ambassador to St. Lucia, His Excellency James Chang, handed to the Agriculture Minister, Honorable Moses Baptiste, a check valued at EC $617,000 as the fourth and final disbursement of funds to assist with the agriculture diversification program for the prevention and treatment of the black sigatoka leaf spot disease. The funds, according to the Taiwanese ambassador, would be used to purchase chemicals for distribution to banana and plantain farmers to help in the management and control for the black sigatoka leaf spot disease.
These activities are expected to effectively reduce the infection rate of black sigatoka from 70% to 20%, bringing the disease under effective control. After the 2-year implementation period, it is expected that the total banana production will have increased by 10% and that exports will be restored, progressively improving banana farmers' livelihoods.
The objective of that component of the project was to reduce the disease infestation from 70 to 20% and to increase local production of bananas by 10%, thereby improving the livelihood of the farmer and his family. Agriculture Minister Moses Baptiste expressed gratitude to the government and people of Taiwan on behalf of the local agricultural sector for their unwavering support in bringing relief to the producers of the banana subsector. The Taiwanese funded diversification program for the prevention and treatment of the black sigatoka has been ongoing over the last 2 years. The project in 2015 continued to work with farmers to help in the diversification of the enterprises. An on-farm visit to one of the demonstration plots set up with the assistance of the Black Sigatoka Management Unit pointed to the efforts being made by the project to induce transformational assertiveness in the lives of farmers. The demonstration plot, owned and operated by Kennedy Constantine, depicts a form of strategic diversification in which the farmer continues to generate revenue in bananas as well as in alternative crops. A wide variety of crops were being used using simple innovation and practices. The project was officially launched on the farm of Kennedy Constantine on the 19th of July, during which an overview of the collaboration between the farmer and the BSM unit was presented. Similar demonstration plots were established on selected farms on the island. Meanwhile, the unit in 2015 embarked on a number of initiatives aimed at building capacity of operators within the industry, as well as creating linkages with various partners for the development of the subsector. Work done within that subsector resulted in the resurgence in the industry due to a reduction in the infestation of the black sigatoka leaf spot disease. Some farmers who went out of production have since returned to the industry.
I am pleased that we have completed another year. I am happy that we completed this year in good health. And throughout all of the difficulties and challenges as minister, I continue to thank all of the staff who have worked with us in the new programs, in the programs that we continue. I continue to thank the collaboration among the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Social Transformation to produce what we see in the improved school feeding program and also the new livestock program that is coming on board at Bosejo with IBSA, and in the Department of Fisheries. We see many new things happening there with extension, with crops and engineering and administration. Everybody who put their feet and their hands together to ensure that we ended this year successfully. I wish in a very special way to thank you and your staff and Mr. Sidney and Simon and yourself, Mr. Butcher, and everybody else, those in the background operating, making sure that the internet, the uploading of the images and the stories, and getting the stories out to the media. I wish to thank you for all of the hard work. There is so much more to do. I am very happy with my job. I'm pleased. There's a lot more to do, and I'm looking forward to 2016 to continuing this wonderful work in agriculture, in rural development, in food production, in fisheries, and with all of our cooperatives. Have a wonderful Christmas, a prosperous 2016, and I look forward to working with you next year.